who else is completely unpacking their baggage from childhood trauma during quarantine. I didn't realize until recently that I have two narcissistic parents who have completely ruined my life. I kept blaming all of my mental health issues on myself and always felt like something was wrong with me. I've been stuck inside my studio apartment for 2 months and I've had no choice but to think with that. I've realized that they made me feel crazy and completely diminished my self-esteem as well as my ability to do anything on my own, and that I didn't need fixed all along. I just needed to acknowledge my parents' shit behavior and analyze my experiences as a child. Now I just have to figure out what to do next in terms of our dynamic, because I have never fully confronted everything they've done head on. Hopefully I find a way to go about it soon. Have you caught yourself asking your spouse/partner/friend for permission to do stuff like cooking dinner or going for a shower even in your own house? I realized yesterday that I automatically ask for permission to do things that really don't need permission. Like, I can go take a shower or make a snack for myself at any time. But no, I feel weird if I don't inform my partner of my intentions and whereabouts at all times. It's just funny at this point because he really couldn't care less, and he's told me multiple times that I don't need to tell him these things. It's my house, I do what I want and don't need to justify it. Narcissistic rage during car rides. Does anyone remember car rides as a special haven for narc rage? I heard an interesting piece on why it's so conducive to their age. They have a captive audience, you cannot walk away. It's a private space, so others don't see it. Also, if going to school or something, you'll start the day as a mess. Apparently narc men do this to spouses especially. On the way to a group event, partner becomes a wreck. Narc switches cruelty off with the ignition. To others they look like a good guy with a partner who seems deeply upset with them for no reason at all. Took my sister in. Now I'm triggered. 2 weeks ago my mom kicked my sister out and I drive 9 hours to pick her up and bring her to live with me and my partner. She is 17 and the youngest, and I'm 27 and the oldest of 8. So her experience is certainly different. However, she keeps bringing up issues that affected her that I also experienced. These were situations of deep trauma for me, and it seems for her. I don't want to shame her or blame her for bringing them up, but the feelings are still super intense for me, and I feel myself shutting down sometimes. Sometimes I feel like she has it easier, and I get mad at her, but I also want her to feel comfortable working out her issues as she transitions to adulthood. I hadn't planned on her moving in, and I hadn't planned on feeling things so deeply. I'm not sure there's a fix, but maybe just getting it out there would help. How do you explain to someone how horrible your childhood was when your parents did everything society expects from a parent? So is there anyone else out there that know their parents were narcissists but have had trouble trying to define why? Because on the surface, even in the privacy of home, they appeared to do the right thing. I had ballet lessons, art/music classes, nice clothes, good education, and lived in a nice middle class family with intellectual parents. I was encouraged in pursuits that were deemed culturally, snobby, acceptable. Friends had to be of our social standing or they would be discouraged. One they didn't like because she came home a single parent home living in a state house, is now head of a university department. And I would refuse to stop being her friend. But under this facade ran an undercurrent of emotionally detached parents. I had 2 older brothers. I was the youngest and only girl. Also my grandmother lived with us. Where do I start? My grandmother and I, the other females in the house, were constantly put down and treated differently. For example, we were fed a lot less than everyone else in the household. Say we had a roast chicken. My grandmother and I would only be given a chicken wing each. I was forever hungry. Food was controlled, and when I look back at photos I look anorexic. If we went out or away as a family, my brothers got to run free and play. but my job was to always stay with my grandmother to look after her and help her walk anywhere. I loved her dearly, but would have loved to get a turn to play as well. I was the SG and my eldest brother, the GC, was my mother's favorite. He was the only one that treated me nicely, but later worked out that was just grooming to sexually abuse me. My other brother was always very nasty to me. I was a B average student, which was never good enough next to my brothers that are /B averages. They were supported and encouraged to further education, but not me. Later they did, but only so they wouldn't be embarrassed about my occupation. I was seen as overly emotional and told I needed to get a thicker skin. All I desperately wanted was to be shown some love or physical affection. If they said or did something nasty to me, I'd withdraw and hid away in my room. Hurt. This was classified as sulking, so even when I was in pain I wasn't allowed to show it, even by removing myself from the problem. I never had hugs, cuddles, I love yous or praise ever, but from a child's view I couldn't articulate this as a form of abuse. I still feel guilty if I feel I'm being over emotive, and I will be 60 this year. Does anyone else go to great lengths to ensure their privacy? Growing up, my mum questioned everything I did. Why are you taking so long while I'm taking a bath? Who are you talking to on the phone? She eavesdropped on my conversations and spied on me whenever she could. Even if I was doing something as innocent as watching documentaries on YouTube, I would be accused of watching porn. I couldn't even laugh at something funny I saw on my phone without being accused of talking to boys. Earphones were a problem too. She would hide them. So now I always have a fear that someone will be listening to me or watching me. I used to cover the keyhole of the bathroom door with a piece of clothing and had a tendency of just cutting calls when someone walked in. I can't even make a phone call unless I'm sure no one is around.